Mia is a 23-year-old Arabian cross cob who was previously an all-rounder and came to Writtle University College in 2011 to be used in the riding school. Ownership of Mia transferred to Writtle University College in 2014, and although she cannot be used for jumping due to her arthritic hocks, she is still used by more nervous and novice riders due to her confidence-giving nature. Standing side on, it is obvious that Mia is not standing square and has left her right hind leg behind, offloading the weight onto the left hind. She has a straight hind leg and has greater dorsiflexion through the fetlock here, which further supports that she is trying to offload the right, as Hedge et al. States in 2004. A sloping shoulder allows for smoother action and a greater range of movement. Mia has an upright shoulder, making her locomotion choppy in front. This can lead to saddle slip and possibly an uncomfortable ride, but this isn't the case for Mia. If the plumb line bisecting the leg ends in the middle of the wither, the legs are set too far back and the horse will be heavy on the forehand and probably has an upright shoulder. This lends the horse to be prone to shoulder concussion, and more concussion strains the shoulder muscles and tendons. Excessive strain causes these tissues to become overdeveloped and fibrous, stiffening the shoulder, as Hedge et al. In 2004 and Oliver in 2002 say. Mia has typical upright cob action in front because of her shoulder, but tracks up well behind. Her hind feet normally land a hoof and a half in front of her front feet. She rides very on the forehand initially when warming up, but picks herself up once a few transitions on each range have been made. Toe dragging and brushing behind is common with Mia throughout her ridden and groundwork, which indicates signs of hock trouble, but we know is arthritis, and weakness through her hind end, as supported by Oliver in 2002. Her swing phase is quicker on the left hind leg, and stance phase is shorter on the right hind leg, because she's trying to offload the right hind leg. There is a similar situation in the front legs, where the retraction of the left front is shorter than the right. This suggests slight bilateral lameness, which then improves through gentle work, as Hedge et al. In 2004 says. The goal with Mia was to get her working equally in her lateral movement, using the leg yield as the standard of measurement within 5 sessions. Because of her age and uneven musculature, she found lateral movement very difficult in the beginning and would just drop whichever shoulder was on the outside and leave her quarters behind. The initial lunge session found Mia to be very responsive to the voice and body language, and she had a very willing attitude to work. She struggled with any sort of flexion or bend, more so on the right rein. She also resisted stretching downwards, suggesting tight back muscles. This could be because of a heavy or unbalanced rider, poor saddle fit, or by passive depression of the back, where the muscles are used minimally, as Moore in 2010 says. Here, Mia's walk.
So she sort of falls as well into the downward transitions.
On each rein. She also was asked to navigate a single pole in all 3 paces just to gauge her reaction and to see if she found it difficult or not. After a few transitions, she seemed to loosen up and become more forward and relatively off the leg. She needed a lot of walk breaks due to her weight and fitness level. Mia was given a body condition score of 5 out of 5 due to all of her fat pads and is being tested for EMS currently after her PPID test came back negative. She again did not want to stretch or take much of a contact, despite our rider offering her a loose rein and trying to work her into the bridle. Similar to what was discovered in the lunge assessment, Mia did not find the right rein as easy as the left and liked to hold her head to the outside on the right rein, as well as fall in on her inside shoulder instead of flexing inwards. On the left rein, however, while she still didn't flex her head to the inside, she didn't collapse as badly.
She would suit being Western pony so well. Oh yeah, we definitely don't like this rein as much as the other one.
Operant conditioning in the form of negative reinforcement will be used when training Mia as line Pierstrap Arent backed in 2015. However, as this training programme displays, our training was offset by 2 sessions due to lameness and the programme was amended. The likes of Carl Hester and Polly Ellison use the scales of training all the way up to Grand Prix level, where lateral work is especially important, as Carl Hester says in 2008. Rhythm and suppleness are the two more important stages for Mia, as according to the scales you need rhythm before suppleness. However, McGreevy and McLean's 10 principles of training were far more applicable and adjustable to Mia when published in 2015, and they were built upon the original 8 principles of 2007.
Want it.
Here, Mia was worked up and down her paces after being warmed up sufficiently, allowing her to work efficiently and prevent injury, and move forward carrying the rider, as Clayton in 1991 and Imogen Johnson in 2016 says. Her transitions improved during the session, getting quicker off the leg and not falling into the downwards transitions, so the horse stays in the same frame with the quarters staying under them, as Faith Meredith in 2018 says. Because Mia became lame in the aforementioned left front and right hind, the training programme was amended to include in-hand pole work in walk only, asking her to use her core every time she steps over the poles, as Emma Dainty in 2018 says, and loosen up and flex around the handler.
Good girl.
With Mia still slightly lame but now rideable, she was taken for a relaxing hack around campus with a loose rein. This added variety to her programme and the space to play with her paces and natural work. Here, the handler and rider collaborated and tried to shape Mia's responses when asking for the flexion of the head on the ground. When lunged, Mia will go in an octagonal shape rather than a circle, and so the rider was there to give the aids for bend initially around the circle, and then the handler would take over by conditioning in aids with the lunge line, body language and whip, as McGreevy says in 2007. This session focused particularly on using circles, shapes and then adding in transitions to supple Mia and encourage her hind leg to step under her and move her midsection away from the leg, as Langlois and Barlow says in 2014. Her understanding of the leg aids improved massively here in a short space of time. Unfortunately, her fitness meant that she could not be worked for very long and the session had to finish earlier than expected. The opening of the inside hand and leg and closing of the outside hand and leg were the aids used to try and offer Mia the path of least resistance when bending. Use of the whip via negative reinforcement on the shoulder was to remind her to stop dropping all of her weight into it, but to pick it up and round her loops and circles with it. Here, rhythm was a key focus as it was a warm day and Mia would rather have come back to walk on a loose rein instead of working correctly, and so the rider was careful to keep her as together and on the aids as possible.
I know.
The first session, focusing on leg yielding, included a warm-up and lots of shallow loops, circles, 20 metre and 10, and transitions to get her listening to the leg, which Mia remembered quickly. Here you can see the rider reversing the aids of the previous session by opening the outside hand and leg, moving her inside leg further back and closing her inside hand to Mia's neck, opening the door for her to move through in the leg yield. However, she was prone to leaning on the outside shoulder or leaving her quarters behind, so the rider altered her aids and pushed with the leg first before asking for the inside flexion.
Gonna have to crop out Riley with his stupid noseband.
Prevented her shoulder from falling out. In our final session, Mia warmed up in the same way as session 6 and began to anticipate the leg yield. So the session was broken up with the square exercise, where she would have to bend around a corner and then go straight, so she wasn't having to bend constantly. In this session, 2 pulls were also added into the exercise to ask her to use her core and up the difficulty and further improve her lateral work. The whip is used again here to remind Mia to not fall onto her outside shoulder. Once this was completed, instead of asking her to leg yield to the fence, she was placed on the centre line and asked to leg yield one way, walked straight out of the movement and asked to leg yield the other. This she did successfully. She felt more equal on both reins, although still favoured the left and struggled to flex on the right. We tried to keep her work as positive as possible with lots of releases, due to our negative reinforcement training approach. The leg yielding was also kept in walk, as she simply is not fit enough yet to quicken the pace and add in lateral work.
Saw a red thing and assumed that was it recording, but it's my battery low.
In the future, Mia would undertake a proper fitness regime, as this was the main downfall of her training. If not so many walk breaks had to be taken, a lot more could have been achieved in the time. Hacking out would not only have been beneficial
She
for
is
her fitness,
very
but for her
confused.
health in general, as Mia still needs to learn to stretch out under the rider before she can take a contact and really learn these movements. Her hocks also needed ejecting again towards the end of our sessions, and so with this knowledge, Mia perhaps will perform better after the injections. However,
There we go.
her sweet and willing attitude as well as bright behaviour, especially in the canter, means she still has years left of work in her, albeit gentle.
Yep, go. Oh, see, now you're getting excited by the screams. Where's that?